What if Suzuki decided to bring back one of the most brutally honest, lightweight, and high-revving off-road machines it ever built? But this time, refined it just enough to survive in today's world without losing its wild personality. And here's the twist. This isn't just a comeback story. It might actually be the kind of bike that reminds riders why they fell in love with dirt riding in the first place. Stick with me. Welcome back to Acer Rider, and today we're diving into a legend that still lives in the memories of trail riders and enduro fans, the Suzuki RMX250. Now, if you've ever heard someone talk about older two-stroke enduro bikes, chances are the RMX name has come up with a certain kind of respect, because the RMX250 wasn't built to be polite. It wasn't built to be beginner-friendly in the modern sense. It was built to be fast, light, and aggressive, but still just manageable enough to take into the real world of trails, woods, and open terrain. And honestly, I think that balance is exactly what made it special. The RMX250 was basically Suzuki taking their RM motocross DNA and slightly softening it for enduro use. That meant you still got that sharp, responsive two-stroke power delivery, but tuned in a way that didn't completely punish you the second the terrain got tight or technical. It was raw but usable, fast but not uncontrollable. And in the world of off-road bikes, that's a rare combination. Now imagine that same philosophy carried into 2026. The 2026 Suzuki RMX250 wouldn't be a calm, beginner trail bike. It wouldn't try to compete with heavy adventure bikes or overly electronic dual sports. Instead, it would go back to what it always was at its core: a lightweight, aggressive enduro weapon designed for riders who actually want to feel connected to the terrain. Visually, you already know Suzuki wouldn't overcomplicate it. That iconic yellow and black identity would almost certainly make a return, maybe with a more modern neon accent, to give it that current RMZ-inspired look. The bodywork would be razor-thin, almost race bike slim, with minimal plastics and a very focused stance. A long, flat seat would stay because that's essential for enduro riding. You need to move forward, backward, and everywhere in between. The high front fender, minimal side panels, and exposed mechanical feel would all be part of the design language. Nothing bulky, nothing unnecessary. Personally, this is where I think Suzuki could really win hearts again, because today's bikes often look like technology showcases. Screens, wings, bulky plastics, overstyled bodywork. But a modern RMX250 should feel like it's ready to disappear into a forest trail the moment you start it. Now let's talk about the heart of the machine, the engine. This is where things get exciting. The original RMX250 was powered by a 249cc liquid-cooled two-stroke engine, and it was known for being quick, lightweight, and extremely responsive. It wasn't the most forgiving engine in the world, but that was part of its character. To reward its skill, it demanded attention. In a modern version, Suzuki would face a big decision. Do they switch to a four-stroke for compliance and efficiency? Or do they do something bold and bring back a modernized two-stroke? And I'll be honest with you, this is one of those rare bikes where I personally think a two-stroke still makes sense. Imagine a fuel-injected, electronically controlled, emissions-compliant 250cc two-stroke engine. Clean, efficient, but still with that instant hit when you open the throttle. That combination would be absolutely insane in today's off-road world. Of course, a four-stroke version would be more practical. Smoother power delivery, better fuel economy, easier maintenance for casual riders. But it would also change the personality of the bike completely. And the RMX name has always been about personality. Now let's talk performance, because this is where the RMX250 could still dominate its category. The biggest strength of this bike has always been weight, or more specifically, the lack of it. A modern RMX250 would need to stay extremely light. That's non-negotiable, because in off-road riding, weight changes everything. It affects how the bike turns, how it reacts in tight sections, how it climbs, and how tiring it feels after a long ride. A light bike doesn't just perform better, it makes you a better rider. And that's something I personally love about bikes like this. They don't hide your mistakes. They don't compensate for bad riding. They teach you. They sharpen your skills without you even realizing it. With modern materials, A 2026 RMX250 could easily feature a lightweight aluminum frame, improved subframe rigidity, and better weight distribution compared to the original. That would make it more stable at speed while still keeping that flickable, playful character. Suspension would also be a major upgrade. Modern long-travel forks and a fully adjustable rear shock would transform its ability to handle rough terrain. Rocks, roots, ruts, jumps. It would eat all of it without losing composure. But here's the key thing: it shouldn't feel like a motocross bike. It should feel like a trail weapon. Braking would obviously be upgraded too, with modern disc brakes front and rear, strong stopping power, better modulation, and improved durability for long rides. ABS would likely be optional or switchable, because hardcore enduro riders don't want interference. When things get technical, now, let's talk about features, and this is where Suzuki would need discipline, because the RMX 250 should not become a gadget bike. At most, you'd expect fuel injection, a small digital display, possibly selectable engine modes, LED lighting if street legality is involved, but that's it. No overwhelming menus, no unnecessary rider assist, no overcomplicated electronics, because the RMX has never been about comfort or convenience. It's about riding, and I think that's something a lot of modern riders are starting to miss. Now let's talk about who this bike is actually for. First, experienced enduro riders who want something light, fast, and responsive. Riders who don't want a heavy adventure bike slowing them down. Then you've got riders moving up from smaller bikes. The RMX 250 would be a perfect step into serious off-road performance without jumping into something intimidating like a big adventure machine. And then there are riders like me, people, who don't always want complexity. Sometimes you just want a machine that starts, runs, and disappears into the trail with you. Now here's the twist I mentioned at the beginning. What if Suzuki doesn't just bring back the RMX 250 as a single model, but uses it to re-establish a whole identity around lightweight, rider-focused off-road machines? Because right now, the market is leaning heavily toward bigger, heavier, more feature-packed bikes. But at the same time, there's a growing group of riders asking for the opposite. Something simpler, something lighter, something more connected, and the RMX 250 fits that gap perfectly. If Suzuki plays this right, the RMX name could become more than nostalgia. Could become a statement again. A reminder that off-road riding doesn't need to be complicated to be incredible. So now I want to hear from you. If Suzuki brought back the RMX 250 tomorrow, would you want a modern 4-stroke version for reliability? Or a bold fuel-injected 2-stroke comeback that brings back that raw, explosive feeling? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is one of those bikes that always splits opinions. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Acer Rider, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive into legendary machines and modern concepts. And before we wrap up, quick disclaimer. The 2026 Suzuki RMX 250 discussed here is not an officially announced Suzuki motorcycle. This script is a creative concept based on historical models, enthusiast culture, and industry trends, combined with AI-assisted interpretation for entertainment and discussion purposes. But if there's one thing history keeps proving,